coal truck crash in Pike County sends a pedestrian to the hospital. The Huntington Council discusses adding approval projects for funding, and Inform is on scene at the Spencer County 4-H Fair. Those stories and much more are up next here on 18 WJTS News. Hello, I'm Bradford Raths. In your news, a Linville woman was injured after a coal truck turned over in Pike County yesterday morning. Indiana State Police say 74-year-old Phyllis Claridge and her husband, 75-year-old Jerry Claridge, both of Linville, were walking southbound along State Road 61, just north of County Road 1300 South, just after 8 a.m. yesterday morning when the accident took place. Police say 28-year-old Adam Benefiel of Petersburg was driving a Mack coal truck northbound on State Road 61 at County Road 1300 South when the load in his truck moved, causing it to flip over onto its side. Coal from the trailer hit Phyllis Claridge, which caused her to be swept off of her feet and to be pinned under a metal fence along the east side of State Road 61. Jerry Claridge was able to pull Phyllis out front under the gate and walk her to a neighbor's house. She was airlifted to Deaconess Hospital in Evansville, where she is currently being treated for non-life-threatening injuries. Jerry Claridge was not injured. Benefiel was cited for speed too fast to avoid a collision. The Pike County and Warwick County Sheriff's Departments assisted at the scene. A Marengo woman was rescued Wednesday evening from flash floodwaters in the wake of the round of thunderstorms that rolled across the area. Indiana conservation officers say an officer was responding to another rescue attempt of a vehicle in floodwaters along Valine Road just north of Marengo on Wednesday evening, when the officer saw 40-year-old Lashia Bierman of Marengo walking across the fast-moving floodwaters. The officer encouraged Bierman to get out of the water, but Bierman insisted on going to check on her daughter, who was the operator of the vehicle that the officer was initially trying to help. Officers say Bierman reached waist-deep water and was swept away down a branch of Whiskey Run Creek. The Marengo Volunteer Fire Department was called in after the officer had lost sight of Bierman for several minutes. Rescuers found Bierman hanging onto some bushes on the north side of the floodwaters. Bierman was eventually pulled to the other side of the floodwaters safely. She was treated by the Crawford County Ambulance Service and released at the scene with minor injuries. Indiana conservation officers would like to remind folks to never walk or drive into flooded or fast-moving water. A Lagodi man was injured in a single-car accident when his vehicle flipped onto its top. DuBois County Sheriff's deputies say 33-year-old Robert Smith of Lagodi was northbound on US 231 approaching Old Road 45 just before 4:30 p.m. yesterday afternoon when the accident took place. Deputies say Smith failed to notice a car that was stopped on US 231 and was attempting to turn onto Old Road 45. Smith put on the brakes, but went off of the east side of the highway to avoid hitting the stopped vehicle. Smith's car flipped over onto its roof for a short time before flipping back onto its wheels. His vehicle came to rest facing southbound in a ditch off of the east side of US 231. Smith complained of head and neck pain and was transported to Memorial Hospital for treatment. His car was totaled in the crash. Smith was cited for driving too fast to avoid a collision. The Hayesville Fire Department, Memorial Hospital EMS, and Ubelor & Sons Wrecker all assisted at the scene. The National Weather Service in Louisville says the damage caused by Wednesday night's storms to the southwest of Ireland was caused by straight-line winds. NWS Louisville forecaster Kevin Deitch says the service ruled out a tornado after seeing the damage. A tornado with winds between 60 and 95 miles per hour was reported to have touched down southwest of Troy in Perry County just before 8:30 p.m. Central Time on Wednesday. The National Weather Service says the twister traveled just under 5.2 miles and was 100 yards wide. The tornado lifted off the ground just to the north of Cannelton just before 8:40 p.m. Central Time on Wednesday. Officials said most of the damage was several large trees being blown over by the storm, along with some minor roof damage and some damage to small outbuildings. The twister did also turn over a semi-trailer at 10th and Watt Streets in Tell City, and a few rides were blown sideways. The Huntington City Council met last night to discuss the approval projects that can be funded from the Huntington tax increment financing areas. There are two areas in town that generate these funds. One is the overpass project that has been recently announced for the railroad overpass. The other area is 3 department projects that require expansion or relocation. These are the police station, the 11th Street Fire Station, and the relocation of the street department, which is currently located in a floodplain. This action does not mean these projects will happen, but it will be up for approval in July. Huntington Mayor Denny Spinner says each project will be evaluated based on its potential and the associated costs.
This action does not say those projects will happen, but it does give us the funding mechanism that should we want to proceed with any of these projects in the coming year, we would have funds available to do those. And each of those projects are going to be evaluated as potential and what costs would be associated with it. But with our approval tonight, one more step to be taken, and that will be at the July 15th Redevelopment Commission. There will be a public hearing about these projects, and should they approve it, then those funding mechanisms would be in place.
The council also discussed a Wi-Fi agreement with Perry Spencer. This would expand free wireless internet in various parts of the city. The focal point would be in the city park, ranging from League Stadium to parts of the main shelter house, the shelter house just east of the main shelter area, and the Little League Park area in parts just to the south of the stadium. Spinner says there are still more details in the process.
We are in the process of completing a fiber project that will replace that internet service that Perry Spencer is now providing. They offered us as an exchange for that service, a new service, which would be allowing Wi-Fi in the city park. Once that agreement goes into place, they will be doing some studies.
Spinner says this is a way to enhance the park and a great way to enhance the city and create a more convenient lifestyle for its residents. The Regional Economic Development Group, known as Radius Indiana, is the recipient of a $75,000 grant. The Education Workforce Innovative Network grant from the University of Indianapolis Center of Excellence in Leadership of Learning will help align the state's K-12, post-secondary, and workforce needs. Radius Indiana manager Joe Timbrook says it is vital to connect the needs of the workforce with the skills of available workers.
Well, it's critical these days as companies look to relocate possibly into our region, including Du Bois County, that we have the workers available that have the skills that they need to perform specific jobs in their companies. And so part of the grant is really focusing on what those skills are and being able to meet those needs of the companies as they look for places to relocate.
Local workforce and education advisory councils have been created for each of the 8 Radius counties to examine educational activities in the region and to identify best practices and how those models and initiatives can be adopted throughout southern Indiana. Tim Brooks says the councils will play an important role in identifying models and initiatives.
The importance of the councils, when we have one in each of our 8 counties in the Radius Indiana region, is to really take a look at what is currently happening in each of the counties and then work with the region as a whole to be able to use things that are happening already in the region and duplicate those in other areas of the region, as well as look for outside opportunities to come in and be able to help us implement initiatives where we can get the skills to the workforce that we need.
The task force will be proactively engaged with the business community throughout the region to address the growing need for workers with specific skill sets. Radius Indiana serves Du Bois, Crawford, Davies, Greene, Lawrence, Martin, Orange, and Washington counties, and acts as a primary point of contact for Crane Division Naval Surface Warfare Center. Another Spencer County tourism stop has earned the Certificate of Excellence Award. Lake Rudolph Campground and RV Resort has earned a Certificate of Excellence Award from TripAdvisor.com. The award, which honors excellence in hospitality, is only given to businesses that consistently get outstanding reviews on the TripAdvisor website. Approximately 10% of accommodations that are listed on TripAdvisor earn the Certificate of Excellence. Businesses have to have a rating of 4 or higher out of a possible 5 among reviews by travelers who visit the site. Additional criteria includes the volume of reviews received within the last 12 months. TripAdvisor.com is the world's largest travel site with more than 200 million unique visitors each month. The site offers trusted advice from real travelers and a wide variety of travel choices and planning features with links to booking tools. Lake Rudolph's Dave Lovell says the award is very important to the employees and others at the resort.
It really means a lot to the employees of Lake Rudolph and to the ownership, and that because we work really hard to keep improving our facilities, and more than that, to improve the experience of our guests. And what's great about this award is that this is totally our guests, making these judgments, making these comments on TripAdvisor. So it's really gratifying to see that our efforts are paying off.
Lake Rudolph, now in its 56th season, has added 5 new water slides for a complex to be known as Santa's Splashdown Water Park. The new water park is set to be opened on July 4th. Lake Rudolph has also added 22 additional cabins to Rudolph's Christmas Cabins. One of those cabins will be handicap accessible. Other improvements being made to the resort will include more parking, new sidewalks, and road widening to improve the flow of traffic. Lovell says the cabins are already making their mark.
We're already seeing an impact right now on the new Christmas cabins, that's proving the Christmas cabins are proving to be very popular. The nicest thing that we offer here, and we're a place that offers not only can you bring your own camper or tent here, you can stay here. We offer lodging.
For more information and reservations, you can visit lakerudolph.com or call 1-877-478-3657. Finally, tonight we bring you our weekly presentation from the Indiana Youth Institute. Though texting and driving has become more of an issue the more that we use technology in our everyday lives, it isn't necessarily confined to teenage drivers. In tonight's presentation, IYI CEO Bill Stanzakavich offers his take on the source of the problem when it comes to texting and driving.
All right. New moms often say that they are good drivers because they want to protect their children, but that's often not actually the case.
A lot of things involving technology, the kids are first and then the adults finally catch up. A lot of times that's a good thing, whether it's using email, texting, getting on other social media sites. Sometimes it's a bad thing because more and more adults are now admitting that they're using their social media, texting, using their electronic devices while they're driving. That's something we've been talking about with our kids for a long, long time. But now we're seeing both in data and anecdotally, we're starting to see this with adults as well. Anecdotally, we have law enforcement folks and emergency room and other health officials saying that they're seeing some more injuries and some more car crashes. And people don't always admit that they were texting while driving, but there's certainly a growing suspicion that they were. There also is a survey out there that says about 2/3 of moms admit that they maybe have turned around to take care of the kids while they're driving or use their technology while they're driving. So what we've come to is this. We're at a point now that the messages that we've had for our teenagers, we need to make sure we're internalizing for ourselves as adults. Don't text and drive. Instead, think about 1, 2, 3. Number 1, keep your hands on the wheel. Number 2, keep your eyes on the road. And number 3, keep your mind on your driving. Stay focused. The email can wait. The text can wait. And make sure that you're arriving safely. And then you can return all the emails and texts that you want.
But it only takes a minute to send a text.
It only takes a minute. It takes less than a minute to miss somebody running in front of your car. It takes less than a minute to see somebody pulling out in front of you. It takes less than a minute to not notice that the car in front of you has stopped. An accident happens in a split second. So, as quick as texting is, as quick as sending an email is, an accident happens even faster than that. So we really need to be careful that we not text while we drive. Here's something else that's important when kids are in the car. Certainly we need to keep them safe, so we shouldn't text while we drive. But kids then internalize not only what we tell them, but what they observe. So they observe us using our smartphones while we drive. Guess what's going to happen when they turn 16 and a half and they're in the car by themselves for the first time driving? They're going to repeat what they saw. So make sure you show your kids the right behavior by not texting while you drive.
And it's often younger parents who are most guilty of using technology in whatever form while driving.
The research in the survey shows that when there is texting and driving, when people admit to it, which isn't always, certainly it tends to be the younger generations because they've been brought up with and ingrained with technology more often. So it's something we really need to be careful about, really need to be aware of because our law enforcement and our medical people are telling us they're seeing more injuries and they're seeing more accidents, and there's a growing belief that at least some of this is attributable to using technology while people are driving.
What do you recommend if the baby's crying and I'm driving or I need to take a call from my boss? What is the best way to handle these situations while on the road?
As a culture, we like to multitask, and driving needs to be something that puts away all the other tasks. We need to really be focused exclusively on driving when we're behind the wheel of that vehicle. So if the baby is crying while we're driving, pull over if there's an emergency. If you absolutely have to talk to your boss on the phone, do so before you get in the car, or again, pull over to make that call. And really, I can't imagine there's any text or email that's more important than, running into a truck or running over somebody while you're driving your vehicle. So it's really about priorities, and driving needs to come first when we're behind the wheel of that vehicle.
Anything else you want to say about that?
To show you how big of a challenge this can be, I was talking to a driving instructor who told me when she teaches kids how to drive, they ask the kids to shut off their cell phones and toss them in the back seat so that they're not tempted. And the kids didn't even know there's an on-off switch. They said, "Oh, you mean put it on vibrate? Put it on silent?" She said, "No, shut it off." They didn't even know it did shut off. That's how much our technology has become part of our lives, but not just for our kids, for adults as well. So again, we've been talking to the kids about not using technology while they drive. The same message applies to adults, to keep ourselves safe, to keep our kids safe, and to model the right behavior for those young drivers.
Once again, our video this evening is brought to you courtesy of the Indiana Youth Institute. Coming up after the break, sunny weekend skies and a cooler air pattern headed towards southwestern Indiana. That ahead in your local forecast, sports with Kurt Guxell, and Inform on location at the Spencer County 4-H Fair. That's all up next here on 18 WJTS News. Local people watching local people.